to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor, and as usual, always grateful to be here, especially grateful today, and continue to be grateful and want to keep being grateful. And another weather update here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. I had the windows down in the car driving in to record today. You know, it's just one of those where I had my daughter, she's in studio here. I'm just going, man, we are lucky to live in Scottsdale, Arizona right now. A lot of stuff going on in the world, and just especially grateful to kind of be where we are at. Beautiful weather, happy days, just all of that kind of good stuff. So I think it's important to try and check on yourself. Remember those things. Roll the window down, let the air blow through, and just and smile a little bit, which actually brings me to the topic that we're going to be talking about today, happiness. Something that I think we could all obviously use a little bit more of in the world. Not always a happy place, especially given what's going on around the world right now. But it's something that I try to be more conscious of and try and take note of and work towards, right? And I know we've talked a lot about gratitude on the show, and I think it does go hand in hand. But I really want to just dig into exactly what is happiness, what are some keys to maybe living a happy life, some examples of what that could potentially look like, so that maybe you can start thinking about happiness in your own life and how to find that. And again, I don't think it's somewhere we ever land. I just think it's a continuous journey that we work on, right? So, but it does start with kind of being cognizant of it and trying to kind of be happier, which actually I'll get into how gratitude plays into that. So, if you're watching on video today as well, too, you might notice a little bit something new on the video. We got a little bit of hardware over here. This is a trophy that I actually won last night playing with a group of guys in a charity basketball tournament. Got asked to put a team together, and all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, go to the Southwest Autism Research Center. It's called SARC out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Great cause. So happy to be asked to put a team together. And hey, when I get asked to put a team together, I recruited some good players, and sure enough, we went in and we didn't lose a game. So some of my happiness is tied to this piece of hardware that I brought in today as well too, and just thought it'd be fun to kind of bring it in studio. So, but before we dive into that, I always want to pay some bills and say thank you to our sponsors that are out there. And as always, we start with ShareTech. Look, if you're in the market for a drug or alcohol screen, there really is one test that can be trusted for accuracy, and it cannot be cheated, and it is the most comprehensive screen available on the market. Sorry, period. It tests for the most substances. It tests for things that many other things do not test for, and they are always adding to the panel of substances screened as well. There's a new drug on the market called xylazine, and it is a nasty, rotten drug that kind of started on the East Coast and has made its way out west, and it rots your flesh. It is resistant to the naloxone, that opioid reversal agent, as well too. So this is really serious stuff and has those same kind of feeling and high as a fentanyl. These are things that, since we use a lab as part of the ShareTech screen, they can add this to the screen as well too. Whereas many traditional providers just have a 1-panel, 10-panel thing. And if you're using a substance that's not being screened for, you're now allowing that person to continue to use and go undetected. And that can be life-altering, if not life-ending. So Google ShareTech, pick up one of their at-home tests. You're going to be grateful that you did, because you're going to be able to trust the results. As always, our friends at EasySheets.club. Look, I use it myself. I sleep on the sheets. I get the press sheets. They're sent to my door. I put in the used sheets. They go back, get professionally clean, and they're just in that rotation now. It's a great way to do bedding, right? You don't have to worry about stripping your sheets and washing them yourself and getting back in them when they're half wet, or it's Sunday night, they didn't get all the way dry. Now you're either sleeping without sheets, all those situations that we've been in before. Easy Sheets eliminates that. Plus, you get resort quality bedding that's pressed and professionally cleaned, shipped right to your door. Plans start at $50 a month. Go to EasySheets.club, get signed up. I'm a big fan of the white Cariloha bamboo. Trust me, you and whoever's sleeping next to you is going to thank you as well too. And last but not least, Coalition for Youth Drug Abuse Prevention. This is my mission. I want to spread the word about youth drug prevention and what we're doing with the new nonprofit that I'm a part of, a team that you're going to see our marketing efforts across the country. Follow us at Hard Stop Official. Costs you nothing. You're going to start hearing more and more press from us, but the best way to stay connected to what we're doing is follow us at Hard Stop Official. We also have some resources for parents as well, too. We actually put together, and I helped write, a parents prevention playbook, which is tangible take-home steps that can be applied in your household with your son or daughter today. So, okay, cool. Well, we got that part out of the way. So, happiness is an interesting topic. I hear Dennis Prager and some other people, you've heard me mention Prager before, he does an actual happiness hour on some of his radio talk shows. So there's a lot of conversation around this. But I wanted to dig into it, selfishly for myself. I'm just like, what contributes to happiness? How do we find happiness? How do we seek that? We all know people who kind of appear to be happier or not happy. Why are they that way? Why are some people not that way? So I spent the last week, when I was kind of chewing on what we wanted to talk about, reading into this a little bit more. And the first thing I wanted to start is, as I was just doing some research on kind of what is happiness. Now, let me just read what was kind of spit back to me through some of the research I did. Happiness is a complex and subjective emotional state characterized by feelings of joy, contentment, and overall well-being. It's often a positive and pleasurable experience that can vary from momentary bursts of delight to long-lasting life satisfaction. Happiness can be influenced by various factors, including one's circumstances, relationships, mindset, and personal values, right? Now, here are some of the other things that contribute, as I, again, went through and researched for kind of show prep, some common elements associated with happiness, right? The first one was just having positive emotions, right? The feeling of joy, love, gratitude, and satisfaction. I think satisfaction is really an interesting thing here, because if we're constantly not feeling satisfied and wanting more, seeing things or feeling less than, instead of that feeling of what I have is enough and I'm good with that, I don't think we're ever really going to get to that happiness state. So I thought that was a really interesting one as well. Life satisfaction is kind of an overall contentment with one's life as a whole, right? Starting to think of it that way. Here's another element, fulfillment, a sense of purpose and meaning in one's life. That could be religious, that could be church, that could be volunteer, that could be nonprofit, that could be a million different things, but finding that sense of purpose in one's life. And man, does it feel like, I don't know if it's just in this country or if it's a global issue, that sense of purpose sure seems to be lacking when I look around in the world. And it seems to be when I do come across people that are living happy, joyous, and free, right? They're oftentimes, have that sense of purpose or are connected to it. Healthy relationships, right? So positive social connections and support from loved ones, right? I think that's obviously kind of a no-brainer when you're talking about happiness. I do think it also, I didn't put this specifically as one of the points, but I think it has a lot to do, especially as adults, with who we marry, right? I mean, this is a person that we are choosing to spend the rest of our life with, right? And again, as a guy who's been divorced and can see the impact of what, I don't think I made poor choices, but I was just in different places in my life to where I don't know if my picker, right, my picker of who I'm out there picking was fully functional. Maybe it was under the influence of drugs or alcohol or under lust or whatever it was, but it led me into things that, I'm grateful for all the relations that I've had, but, I don't know if I fully thought about going into that thing and making sure that this person, and screened them well enough and them back at me. This isn't, a one-way street. This is a two-way street, to make sure that we are really aligned on those things that are most important. And we'll do another podcast on dating and all this, but it's not just chemistry of physical attraction and things like that. There's much more deeper things as well, too. The next thing I had on the list for, again, elements associated with happiness are personal growth, right? So the opportunity for self-improvement and pursuing one's goals. So not staying stuck. We've talked about that quite a bit over the time. I just had a fraternity brother here in town and actually had a lunch and a dinner with him. And it was just, we had some fantastic conversations around personal growth, some of the things that he's done, some of the things that he's working on. I shared a lot of the things that I've done, which was really fun because we were two 18-year-old kids going to Boulder, Colorado, drunk as a skunk and high as a kite, to now circle back at 44 years old with kids and families and things like that, and to kind of sit down and have these types of conversations versus blacked out conversations of the past and things like that. So just kind of the progression of that. And it was really interesting to kind of hear his perspective and where he's been through life, where I've been, and shared it. It was really kind of a neat way to kind of bring things full circle, from kind of where we were as kids to, I guess, adults now is what we're called at 44 years old, right? Next up on my list is gratitude. We've talked about this quite a bit, which is interesting because it almost touches every single topic that we go through, which to me tells the importance of gratitude. But just appreciating and being thankful for what we want, for what one has, right? I think that goes to satisfaction. I just think gratitude in general, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, and how gratitude actually feeds happiness, right? And it's not being happy, then comes gratitude. It's almost the other way around, which I think is really interesting. And the last one that I didn't initially have on the list, but again, as I was putting this together, was resilience, right? So, you don't think resilience and you think happiness necessarily, but the ability to bounce back from adversity and face challenges with a positive attitude. As I've done kind of a debrief on my life, personality traits, and kind of who I am and the wiring that I have, and I do believe that we all have certain wirings that just kind of come inherently with us, resilience is certainly one that has shown itself throughout my entire life. And I don't think, not to pat myself on the back too much, but give myself a little bit more credit. Now, well, Steve, you were doing this, that, and the other thing. Yes, some of my adversity, as I've stated previously, is self-inflicted, right? So I'm not saying that, I'm just resilient because I put my own self into those situations, but the ability to bounce back and hit things head on, which I'm a big fan, which also is kind of what we do here at the Unlicensed Counselor Podcast, is address things head on and then use a positive attitude in doing this. And I don't think I realized that my wiring like that and how it's impacted my life positively, because I've seen a lot of people with very similar situations that I've been in that just have different wiring, not better or worse, but different wiring, in how the progress that they've made is either challenging or not progress or moves much slower. Really, I think what I'm trying to say is they go into depression a lot more and kind of stay stuck in a lot of places. And I'm not that type of guy. And it's not because I am different. I think that's a wiring from a resilience for whatever reason that I've just kind of came out of the womb with. But I have seen that the people who are willing to kind of hit things with a positive attitude tend to move through whatever challenges show up in our life, right? So happiness really it's kind of this multifaceted concept, and it's going to vary from person to person. What brings me happiness may not bring you happiness, and it's going to be different for everybody. It's just very personal, and it's influenced by a lot of different factors, right? So just keep that in mind as we're kind of doing it. But that whole segment was really on elements associated with happiness. So, what are some keys to living a happy life, right? I think some of these are going to be kind of no-brainery-ish, but I think they're worth repeating and kind of getting this out there, because maybe, just maybe, you have some happiness existing in your own life today that you're just not recognizing, right? As a person, again, who came through a divorce on the other side, it's actually a year this month now, and there was a lot of dark days prior to this month, but now seeing some of the positive that's coming through this, I just think that there's some value in taking a look at what you have and not having to go through a divorce or not going through a job loss or not going through financial stress, and being able to stop, take a minute, look around and go, wow, I got this awesome dog. I got these kids. I live in a cool city. I've got a great view. I go on a hike with my friends. I love cooking this meal. I've got great social, friends and things, whatever it is, but just pausing and take a look at that. So, okay, some keys to living a happy life, right? Just some general principles here. So positive relationships, right? Meaningful connection with friends and family. So that's just as simple as spending quality time loved ones and supporting each other. Maybe put the phone down a little bit as well too, right? I'd like to not just because geographically or proximity wise you're close to them, I'd like to see you actually engaged with those people that are around you, but building and having those meaningful connections with friends and family. Look, the family one, I'm not going to say it comes naturally because it actually doesn't. You do have to put in work with those things, but especially the friend thing and making sure that you're investing the time in those, friend relationships as well too. Because as we're older, we just drift. That was, again, my fraternity brother pings me. He's going to be in town, wants to have lunch, wants to have dinner. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We went to a steakhouse right around the corner from here. And it was terrific. And we had some deep, meaningful conversations. And I really, really enjoy that. And it sparked in me, it's like, I need to put more time and effort into this, not just with him, but other people that I would still consider friends but I maybe don't talk to on quite a regular basis. So that's on me to invest the time and effort and time and effort and energy. There's the word I'm looking for into this thing, right? So obviously, next up is gratitude. Look, we know it. I've talked about it at length, but practice gratitude for what you have. Keep that journal. Record what you're thankful for each day. And a lot of the research, as I was kind of show prepping for this, to kind of circle back to the earlier point, was that they have found that people who practice gratitude more are more happy, right? So instead of trying to focus on being happy and thinking that your gratitude will then stem from that, it's actually flipped the other way. So that was a little nugget that stood out to me as I was going through this. It's like, okay, focus on the gratitude and byproduct of gratitude, happiness, right? What a concept. When you say these things or you actually take some time to think them through, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, how often do you sit and think about gratitude or happiness? Maybe other people do, but it takes hosting a podcast and going through a crap ton of other stuff in my life in order for me to sit down and think through these things. Don't be like me. Do it now. Listen to this. Think it through, right? Purpose. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but finding that meaning and purpose. That could be a career, that could be a hobby, that could be values, anything that's interesting to you. Again, that can be your church, that can be your faith, whatever it is. I'm finding a lot of, purpose is a strong word, but really, I was in hot yoga as usual this morning, right? I talk about it every Thursday because I go to class at 9:30 in the morning. And I find a lot of value, and I don't know about purpose, but it's definitely a dusting of purpose when I'm in there because of the quiet and the calm and the balance and just the kind of relaxing of my brain while I'm in there. And I want to share that with other people. It's part of the reason why I talk about yoga, and I feel like if we had a little bit more of that mentality, maybe we could just inch forward as a society and a culture to be a little happier, better people. So I don't know, find whatever that is for you, be intentional about it, think about it, and then keep doing it, right? Keep doing it. Health. Another one we oftentimes take for granted here, but this is a great example of taking care of your physical and mental health, right? Exercise, balanced diet, meditation, whatever that is, because I guarantee you, as soon as your health goes, you're going to wish you would have put the time into it. And I see people as family and friends are getting older, and there are those who are going to the gym and doing a little weightlifting or going for walks or jogs or swim, all this stuff. And then there are those that are not, right? And then you got a 3-year-old running around and you want to play with, but you can't move all that well, and getting up is a problem, and you've got to be careful about a fall now, and now maybe you want to start exercising, which is great, but man, what I have seen, it is much more challenging when you've let it go a little bit to now try and reel it back when you're hitting 60, 70, plus, right? So really taking care of that health. And again, I said this in a recent episode, get to the doctor, get the physical, get the checkout, right? Do the proactive stuff. And we've always talked about it being the unlicensed counselor on the mental health side, but let's make sure we're doing that on the physical side. Go get your blood work. There's tons of services now that you can just mail in your blood, or they'll send you out a kit. They'll run some tests where you get the results. You don't even have to go into the waiting room anymore. It's a new world order out there, right? Another key to living a happy life, work-life balance. Right? A little bit of balance, avoiding that burnout. We hear that word burnout a lot. you know why we hear that a lot? Because a lot of people burn out, right? So you got to be able to set some boundaries of when you're on and when you're working, and then dedicating some time to relax and unwind. Again, setting the phone down, taking that vacation, not trying to burn the candle all night and show your boss that you're up and doing it. You know, one of the other quotes or memes I saw floating around the internet recently is like, the only person who's going to remember you work late is your kid. And if that doesn't hit you or you don't care, then fine, go for it. But, you know, I've seen that firsthand where it's like, I got to go. I got to start up. I got this. I lived it for a long time. Crushed me, right? But you don't realize that it's crushing you while you're doing it, because you think that you are doing all the right things and the effort and the energy is going to pay off monetarily or status-wise or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, you're a couple years into doing whatever it is you're doing, and you're angry, you're tense, you're upset, you're snapping at your kids or wife or dog or whatever it is, and you're just maybe not as happy, right? Because you've lost that balance. Next up, positive mindset. So this is something that I am more intentional about focusing on in my own life, is cultivating a positive outlook on life. So we're going to have hard stuff. And hard things lead to challenging negative thoughts, right? So instead of focusing on those negative thoughts, and it's okay, you're going to have the thoughts. You know, I'm not saying don't have negative thoughts, but challenge those, and let's see if we can replace those with solutions, not creating more problems in our mind. We got enough problems, but let's see if we can challenge, hey, you recognize it. Literally have that little inner monologue going in your head where you're like, okay, yeah, this sucks. Don't like that. Not happy with this. I'm frustrated with that. How can we challenge that? What's the other person? What's going on in their life? You know, in the basketball tournament that we just did, you know, they had the date set. They moved it at the last minute. I communicated it out. They changed it back to the original time. I think it was just, you know, we were at the Suns Arena. A lot going on over there. And I got the message. I told my guys, and then they changed it back. And I've been frustrated, right? So it's like, okay, yes, I'm frustrated. Let's take a minute. Let's not respond. How can we focus on, let's think this through. Well, okay, I'm frustrated. Imagine what the guy who's organizing the whole tournament. He's obviously not the one doing it. He's dealing with the Suns organization, and they've changed it on him. So why am I snapping at him? And I just went through this, you know, over the course of about 2 hours, because I was like, you look disorganized, is the, you know, and probably some of that's my ego and things. But then I was like, thought it all the way through, and it was like, let's just let this go, right? Let's just find the positive. We get to play at the Suns Arena. This is a great opportunity. We're going to have so much fun. And you know what? It all worked out perfectly fine, and I didn't have to stress over it anymore. So it's just kind of switching that mindset from kind of that negative thoughts and patterns and really challenging it with some positive stuff. All right? Next up, so learning and growth, continuously learning to grow as a person, right? So I went out and got 97% of a master's, right? Which is why, again, we're the unlicensed counselor podcast. That the damn 3% still hanging out there, right? I see you laughing over there, Robin. You know, I started a podcast. I started a business, right? I took up yoga, right? I want to find new things that are interesting to me. I may not love them all, but I'm continuously trying new hobbies. I want new skills. I want things that interest me. I want to engage in meaningful conversations and things like that. And I try and surround myself with opportunities to learn and grow. And for me, that brings me a lot of happiness. I mean, one of the things I love is a good, interesting, deep conversation that's not just superficial crap of whatever we're regurgitating in the news or political cycle that we're in. Like, I like to have some of those discussions, but I like to get in underneath some of that stuff as well, too. And so I'm looking for new ways to think, grow, engage, things that are of interest, things that I've always said I wanted to do that I haven't done, and just going and tackling those things. Next up on the list I had was kindness, right? So being a kinder person, that is practicing random acts of kindness, helping a neighbor, volunteering, donating to a charitable cause. I'd like to see you volunteer over donate, but baby steps, right? You know, I'd like to see you actually do a little bit of work or volunteering instead of that. You know, let's make it even simpler. Let's hold the door, right? Let's send the elevator down to the first floor, for somebody if you're getting out of it. And, there's a million little things that you can do um, to just be a nicer, gentler, kinder person. If you need to give up your seat somewhere or let somebody fill into your spot, maybe you know how to do this. Find little ways to do it and then try it. And let's not worry about like trying to take credit for it. I don't like when people do kind things and then they kind of want the attention for that. To me, that detracts from it, right? So do it and don't expect or try and find any reward or, something back out of it. So just kind of giving unconditionally, I think would be the way to do it, which by the way is another topic that I want to talk about at a point in time. Next up on my list, I had mindfulness, right? So being able to kind of stay present and appreciate that moment, right? So whatever mindfulness exercise, use the apps, use meditation, use yoga, whatever it is that you're finding to reduce stress is obviously going to increase your level of happiness, right? Again, but you got to put effort into this, just like anything else, and you've got to practice it. You're not just going to sit here at home and happiness is just going to wash over you. You've got to put some effort into it, right? I mean, this is I'm going to say no brainer again, but you got to put a little effort into this if you really do want to be happy. And you got to want to be happy as well, too. Again, it's not just going to lightning bolt, boom, hit you and all of a sudden you're now happy, right? That's just not the way the world works. Sorry. In fact, probably the exact opposite. The world is going to keep pounding you with unpleasant, hard, challenging things. How do you want to address that? And do you want to be happy? And how are you going to find that, right? And then how about a little compassion, a little self-compassion? Be kinder to yourself. Practice some self-acceptance. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself. That self-criticism that you have sometimes in your voice is kind of chirping away. Let's try and dial that down a little bit. Let's see if we can quiet that down. I am very hard on myself and have been. There are times where it can be okay because you do want to improve, and I understand that in sports and practice and a little bit in work and things like that. But let's also be a little more, just go easier on yourself. I want to be a great dad and I want to do all these things, but sometimes I can't get to everything, right? I can't get to everything. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. You got a great daughter. You do things as much as you possibly can, but you can't be Superman. And in fact, don't try to be, because that's going to lead you to some burnout as well too. And then understand that it's okay. You can go easy on yourself. Next up, I had financial stability. So really, again, in terms as it relates back to happiness, is just managing your finances to reduce stress, right? There's a lot of different ways finance could be tied to happiness. But in this example, let's just think budgets. Let's think saving for your kids. Let's just a way to reduce it. If you want to go and you have surpassed that or want to surpass that, by all means, go for it. Hopefully within that work-life balance, but let's just shoot for some stability right now, just because if you can get to that level, again, now that's not just the constant nag of bills and things and going out and you're looking at that account, because that's going to impact your level of happiness as well too. And the last thing I had on my list as well too is just adventure and fun, right? Let's be sure to have a little fun while we're out here in this life. So finding new ways to have some adventure, to go on that weekend trip, to go on that hike, to get out to the beach, to drive down to Rocky Point, to get into the mountains or go onto that lake. Say yes to the trip that maybe you wouldn't normally do. Get out of town, do something, go skydive, whatever it is. Maybe it's something that you usually say no to. Let's see if we maybe say yes to a few more of those things out in our life. And let's see how that impacts your level of happiness in the life. I want to see people have more joy in their life, right? I mean, that's really what I'd like to see. And if we can start to pick a few of these things out of the list that I put together, I think that we're all going to see a little bit more joy coming out of our lives. And then the joy of your family. I think it's really going to have kind of these effects. And don't downplay the impact that this could have in your kids and maybe the future generations as well, too, by setting the example and kind of being intentional about pursuing happiness in your life as well, too. But look, it's a journey. You're going to have some up and downs. What makes you happy may not make this person happy. So just find what works for you. And for me today, it was winning a basketball tournament at a charity thing last night. And that's why I brought in the shiny trophy, just to show it off here, because you know what? That was a heck of a lot of fun. And I'm grateful that I have the health and the ability and the friends and the social connections to do it. I'm also grateful that we helped a good cause as well, too. So fun stuff. So, hey, look, hope you got a little bit of something out of this. Look, happiness, big topic. Break it down. Think about it. Take one or two of these. Talk about it. Put it into your life. See, maybe, just maybe, you listen to a podcast and you have some ideas on how to improve the happiness in your own life. So, awesome stuff. Again, so grateful to be here. Again, my name is Steve Moak. This is The Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.